Back again then, day 2 of the draft, and didn't have to wait long for the Seahawks to make a pick. They have moved up from 52 to 35 and have given the Tennessee Titans their first third-round pick. So that's the 82nd pick to move up. And they have drafted Nick Emmanwori. First reaction on that is just a little bit surprised. And I don't know what that means for whether they've changed their approach or whether just having had the meeting, the official visit with Nick Emmanwori, they were just reassured by some of the character concerns that have been well reported now by Todd McShay and by Bob McGinn. He was described as somebody who, it could be a little bit difficult in the locker room. And the reason I'm surprised by that is because having moved on from all of the drama of this offseason and having moved off DK Metcalf and Geno Smith having moved on as well, I would have thought they would have avoided stuff like that. But obviously they'll have done their homework. They've had that official visit for a reason, and they're obviously reassured by him. If that concern didn't exist, he would have been a first round pick. He would have probably gone in the top 20 because, his range at his size is rare. Like his ability to move around in the open field, you just don't see many players who can do that. He was a bit of a playmaker for South Carolina. He is somebody who can line up in many different positions. If you want to have him up in the box, if you want to sort of play him as a sort of a hybrid linebacker, if you want to have him sort of sitting deep and read and reacting, he can do all of those things. There were games for South Carolina last year where he jumped off the screen. He was a really good player, and I had a fringe first round grade on him. It's exactly where he's ended up going, and in terms of pure value for the talent, it makes a lot of sense. I will say that I would have liked to have seen him pack a bit more of a punch for his size and speed combination. However, I think he is a good player. They clearly rated him very highly to move up this far and be aggressive to go and get him. The chances are that they had, a similar sort of fringe first round or legit first round grade on the player. And they've been aggressive. And we've talked about this for a few weeks, haven't we? If you see somebody who you think, that is a player who's not going to last to 50. That's somebody that we want to go up and get. Why not do it? I don't think the Seahawks need 10 players to come onto this roster. They need quality. And if they believe that he can come in and elevate this defense to another level, then I'm all for it. I'm down with the pick. I'm happy with it. I trust the Seahawks with the character stuff because they have been so careful with that over the years. So they've obviously been reassured by that. It does mean that, they now pick at 50. So what is that pick going to be? Is it going to go on another offensive lineman? Or is that sort of out of the question now? Because they've got some other needs. Are they going to end up taking a quarterback in the second round? That Adam Schefter was kind of speculating. I don't know whether that's likely or not now because, again, they've got some other needs still, and maybe they will focus on those. And maybe a quarterback's off the table altogether now, because they haven't got you haven't got 2 third-round picks anymore. You've only got 1 third-round pick right at the end of the third round. So, we'll see what they do. They could always trade down from 50 and try and replenish that stock. I don't think you're going to get third-round picks from trading down from 50, though, unless you trade back down into the third round. So, it's fascinating. It's interesting. It's also interesting that they moved up from 52 rather than from 50. I have to admit, when I saw them, they were moving up from 52, just as Baltimore did to go and get Lamar Jackson. Part of me just wondered, is this for a quarterback? But, maybe that was just too aggressive. You brought in Sam Darnold. Do you need to go and trade up for a quarterback? I don't think so. So, Nick Emmanwori comes in. They needed a safety. People have said he could be Kyle Hamilton. I think they're very different players. Kyle Hamilton was not a great tester in terms of speed, for example, and Nick Emmanwori ran in the 4.3s. But I think Kyle Hamilton had more instinct. He was, quicker to the ball. I think a bit more physical in the tackle. So they are quite different, but you can still work him into that similar versatile role. So you put him with Julian Love now. I think that's a great combination. It can be very interesting with him. It can sort of open up this defense, unlock it into a new level going forward. So happy with the pick. Interested to see what they're going to do next.